I want to give you a mindset that's really helped me communicate better with myself, which is kind of a backwards concept, right? Because most advice is about communicating with other people. Duh, relationships are built and destroyed on a foundation of communication. And if you can learn to clearly and calmly and honestly communicate without snap judgment, you're setting yourself up for success in your relationships with other people. And so there's books and books, there's advice A to Z on how to communicate with other people, lovers, friends, in business, but not a whole lot on how to communicate with yourself. Quite literally that, how to talk with yourself, how to talk to yourself. And not just in the silly way we talk with ourselves behind closed doors, but how to actually have an honest conversation with yourself. Those are honest conversations that once we learn how to have them, and more importantly, when to have them, we can stop doing what comes so second nature to us, which is overthinking, unfair self-judgment, allowing our thoughts to spiral and be totally unhinged, to be triggered into oblivion and let our inner demons take over and then our inner dialogue follow. Learning how to talk to yourself can head all of that off at the pass. It's the equivalent of feeling yourself getting into an argument with a friend or a partner, and instead of spiraling, you say, well, I can see that this is getting heated. Let me take a moment to gather my thoughts before I say something I'll regret, or something that's unfair, or something that's just overly heated. Let me take a step back first. In the same way we need to better communicate with other people, we absolutely need to learn to do the same with ourselves behind closed doors, when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling triggered, when you're feeling anxious, or out about in the world, when you're at work or at a bar, it triggers you and you're left with your own thoughts. How can you have a little sit down chat with yourself so you can chill out and better respond compassionately without overreacting, without being unfair to yourself? And for years, I've been calling the practice of what I've come up with, which I'll outline in just a minute, I've just been calling it, really case, it's basically the practice of me questioning the trigger. Is this really a trigger? Is it really that serious? Is this something that deserves a big emotional judgment? Where is it on the spectrum of things that really matter in my life? Really case? Because more often than not, when we start talking shit to ourselves because we're triggered and we start resorting to being mean and unfair, it's a little thing that we've let spiral and become bigger and bigger, way bigger than it actually is. So I've been doing the simple practice of, really case, is it that serious? Challenging the trigger. And more often than not, just that moment of pause helps me back up and say, nah, it's not. Amidst the big things in life, this is not one of them. And just that moment of pause helps me bring me back to me. It helps me go from a 10 back down. But let's make this more practical so you can start using it in your life. And to do that, I want to reference something I saw on Twitter the other day. It was a woman talking about how her and her husband diffuse arguments in their relationship. Again, very in line with the idea that most advice on communication is relative to others, but with this advice in particular, it's powerful to apply this to how we talk to ourselves. So here is her advice that she gave, and I'm going to read it here, and then we can apply it to ourselves. So props to Cody_Sanchez on Twitter for this. She said, every time my husband and I get into an argument, we use one thing to diffuse it, the too small trigger. It may completely transform your relationship. It did for us. We were having trouble picking our battles. I am a fiery Latina who thinks they're all battles. He's an ex-military, no gray lines type, so we started something. How often do you look back on a fight with a significant other and think, well, that was dumb. I can't believe we got into it over clothes left on the ground, dirty bathroom sinks, wasting 5 minutes, arguing, so on and so forth, taking out the trash. We as humans do a terrible job at prioritizing when we're elevated. So we started doing this thing mid-fight that's a pattern interrupter. When one of us starts to get upset, the other one listens for a second. Then right when they're about to start defending themselves and shifting blame, we instead say 1 to 5. We ask the other person on a scale of 1 to 5, how important is this to us? And for some reason, it triggers the other person to pause, think about it, breathe, and then respond. Sometimes it truly is a 5. Resolving this is a priority, but more often than not, it's not. It's a 1, it's a 2, it's a 3. And then we can have a discussion on changing it or changing our expectation. This has changed the game for us. So that's what she wrote, right? And I love that so much. And if the value you get from this is just what she wrote about communicating with your significant other, that's great. Mission accomplished. But I think we could take this idea and make it a bit more personal. I think we could take it and apply it to how we communicate with ourselves. That is, we can derive the same value from it, which is the value of pausing, the value of really case, but a little bit more specific. the value of being present in your trigger instead of allowing it to be followed by a snap reaction of, yep, this is a 5, definitely a 5. All rage, all 5. The value of this concept is it allows you to say, Case, in this moment, with what just happened, with what you just said, or with what you just did, with something that's frustrating you right now, with the way your human mind wants you to take it and ratchet it up to a 5, how important is this actually to you? Actually, 1 to 5. Pick a battle with yourself. Is this the battle you want to fight? And certainly some battles are worth fighting, of course. Sometimes you need to feel disappointed with yourself and triggered with yourself. Sometimes you need to be harsh on yourself. Sometimes you should allow yourself to be fully present and triggered by the trigger, so you take action. But more often than not, it's not a battle you need to be fighting. It's not a piece of one-on-one drama you need to get yourself involved with. So what are the things you are unnecessarily mean to yourself about? What are the instances where you find yourself saying, geez, you're an idiot. This is why no one loves you. This is why you're always a step behind. You're so weird, whatever. What are the instances? What are the triggers that lead you to assign so much importance to those moments? A 5 on the 1 to 5 scale that triggers you without pause. When you're upset, be upset, of course, don't bury it. But in the same way, communication with a partner requires patience, requires pause, so that you don't overreact, the same is true with yourself. The most important relationship of all, the one with yourself. So maybe that's the issue here, right? We react too quickly with ourselves. We rush, we allow impatience to become our guide and chaos our catalyst. And that's how we end up unfairly judgmental of ourselves because we're rushing. Slow down. Case, 1 to 5. What is the actual importance of this thing that you're about to freak out over? Case, you're about to freak out. The freak out is imminent. How important is this thing actually? Little things. You're annoyed because the driver in front of you seems like they've completely forgotten to drive. You're aggravated by your boss being 12 minutes late into a meeting and it's Friday at 4 and you're done. You went on another bad first date and you start blaming yourself. In those instances, you're about to rage inside. You're about to blame yourself. You're about to blow up. 1 to 5. How important is this? So often in life, we look back on younger years, younger days, and we say, I can't believe I got so worked up about that thing that was so dumb to lose my mind over. Well, this is that idea in action, but in the present. Instead of looking back, it's in the present. 1 through 5, how important is this? Is this thing truly in the way of my happiness, my inner peace? Or is it, admittedly, annoying or frustrating, sure, but just par for the course? Not a 5, not a 4, maybe not even a 3. And another carryover from advice on communicating or just dealing with other people, is the other month that I wrote the following about not allowing other people to rob you of energy. Let's apply it here as well. I wrote that the next time someone hurts you or frustrates you or doesn't choose you, before you give them energy, before you react, before you try to change or chase them, ask yourself this: is this something to be controlled or accepted? Is this a person who needs to be convinced or accepted? And more important, is this person in between where I am and where I want to go? Not where I was, but where I am right now with what I learned about them and where I want to go. No, don't give them any more energy. You didn't come this far to chase them or change their mind. Is this something to be controlled or accepted? Doors closed for a reason, keep them closed so you can open another. It's the same idea for communicating with yourself. Is this something you need to control? Is this something that requires more energy, more of a reaction? Is this something that truly has a rating of 1, maybe 2 on the importance scale, right? Not a 5, but a 1 or 2. Keep that door closed so you can open another that maybe truly is a 5. Because there are 5 battles worth fighting. Of course, it's worth fighting for your passion or your purpose, even when you are triggered by failure. It's worth fighting for someone you truly love, but you've hit a rough patch with and you're admittedly upset. It's worth fighting for inner peace by saying no, by demanding change, by leveling up when it's awkward. Those are 5s, for sure. But I've found, and I'm willing to bet you've found the same, most of the battles we find ourselves fighting, they're 1s and 2s. They're the ones where we're mired by annoyance and rejection or feeling slighted. To be annoyed, to feel the sting of rejection, to be fired up because someone slighted you, I for sure struggle with this. But I'm adamant about not taking it any further. That is a 1. That is a 2. It's not getting any more. Certainly not a 5. Pause. How important is this? Is it worth attaching my identity to? Is it worth giving energy and emotion to? Probably not. And the only way to know is to pause. There's power in the pause, and I hope you take time to tap into it.